Once that hour is up, please remain in the ballroom for a few moments while we give the authors a chance to go get to the rooms where they will be signing. They'll be signing in other rooms. And you'll want to wait too because we have some giveaways that we'll be doing during that time. So hang out through the ballroom. As you enter the room, if you're getting any group assigned, you were given a signing group card. Make sure you hang on to that and don't lose it. Those are 2 things for you today. It has a number on it, which will be the signing group that you're in. It will call you out a group at a time so that you don't inundate the office all at once. You're welcome to hang out here, buy some books, get some giveaways, and that kind of thing. The other thing that signing card has is the name of who you're having books made out to. If you said that you're doing books for other people as well, let one of these registered staff members know who you sticky note with those names on it so that the office knows how to spell the names. So those are some of those details. The other thing is to hold on to the raffle ticket because I mentioned it. And now I think that we are ready to go right in here with our wonderful authors. They are social media today, so they're getting the practice right now. So to begin, since we have so many wonderful authors today, I'm going to just have them go down the line and introduce themselves. Authors, if you can tell us maybe what your better-known books are, what people might know you from, and what your most recent publication is.
I'm Sarah Eden. I'm probably best known for my makeup, dramas, canvases, Japanese Society series. My most recent release came out on Tuesday of this week. It was a Georgia Fair collection of novellas. My next release comes out on April 11th. This is Second Diligence series.
Okay, I'll wait. I'm Krista Jensen.
I write contemporary and historical romance for the cover romance line. My latest release was Miracle Creek Christmas. I have a manuscript coming out for students in the Edwardian era, and I'm super excited. That comes out in August called Hearts of Round Wall, and that is the start of the series. So.
I'm Julianne Donaldson. Now I know how BTS feels. People mostly know me by Edenbrooke. And my most recent release was a book of poetry called Sweet Day. And I don't have anything in the works.
My name is Becca Wilhite. I am also with Anderson. I have done 2 books for popular romance. One is contemporary and one is historical, and I need to keep going with that Victorian romance era.
Is awareness and the stable master is another Regency.
I am Joseph Silva. I have 12 titles in the proper romance line, and my most recent book, The Ballad's Secret, just came out this week. It's a standalone, and what I'm the best known for, I think, is still Art Real, which was my first one. And I don't have anything in the works, so we shall see. I'm Nancy Campbell Allen. I've been doing proper romance for a few years now, and I write steampunk and historical
asleep and I just, I don't promise.
I'm Megan Walker. Historical romance. And I love it. I'm just so excited to be here.
I am Autumn Fox. And I have one romance that is Dorothy's Secret, and I just came out with my second novel, which is Beyond the Lavender Fields.
Hi, I'm Edina Todd. And my proper romance novel is called The Song to the Stars. And I actually was coming up, I have something coming up that's not out yet in the children's market, so Hi, I'm Leah Harriet. I would like Julianne Donaldson to cheer for me. I have a little bit of cold, so my voice is a few octaves lower than normal. And, well, I'm not going to say any of these things. And I don't actually have anything in the works at the moment. There's everyone who has no idea who I am. I am Patricia Flynn. I am lucky number 13, who has no book out until May. So thanks for being here. I'll just go.
They bring you these books and they brought this one full event to us. So let's get and then also thank you to Deseret Book, who was providing book sales for us today. Alright, so my lovely authors. Some of these questions will be for all of you and I'll let you know who they are. Otherwise, I'll just let you guys duke it out with the microphones and decide who wants to answer what. So, for this first one, we'll go down the line again. Let's go down the line, starting at that end. And if you could just tell me, so this month is the 10th anniversary of the Proper Romance series. It's been around 10 years, what a wonderful 10 years it's been. And go ahead and just tell me how you got involved in writing for Proper Romance.
Oh, this is like crying. How I got involved in proper romance was sheer dumb luck. I became a mom, had a lot of free time after not working 2 full-time jobs. I started reading and immediately wanted to start writing, and I threw a game of tag in the ballroom, and here I am. I was actually introduced to the proper romance line because one book club, one of my book clubs, read one of the proper romances, and then another member of that same book club got an art, they get a bigger copy for another proper romance. And then in my other book club, we had a girl join who was a writer, and I was like, well, wait a minute, these are the books, and this person's writing, maybe I can do this. And that's how it went. Okay, so, like I mentioned earlier, I kind of started writing to the children's market, and I had a couple of teen books written for Shadow Mountain. I attended a writing conference where our teacher asked us to write something we always wanted to write, but never dared. And so I started to write the story about my 4th grade grandparents who were a sailor on one of Captain Cook's ships that landed in Hawaii who got an Hawaiian chief. And I started to write that, and I loved it, but I wrote for children. I don't write these kind of stories. I put it aside. A few years later, my editor at Shadow Mountain, we had lunch, and they knew of my Hawaii background and suggested to me, what do you think about writing a story, a proper romance, about ancient Hawaii, maybe with one of the, sailors or with Captain Cook? And I really fell off my seat. So I said, I already have that story, so I was very tentative, and I put very blessed to have gotten to write that story. So I actually started writing the Regency romance before I knew there was a market for it. And I was writing this story, and I was at the library, and I picked up a couple of books that were written by Julianne and Sarah, and I read them, and I was like, wait, there's a market for what I'm writing. Like, I didn't even realize it. And so I researched them and researched their publisher, and so I started writing just totally on a whim. I never really thought about writing or wanted to be a writer. My sweet son Simon passed away, and I had really bad PTSD from things that had happened during the time he was alive. And I remember I just could not sleep at all, and I thought, I need to sleep, and I want something to help my head. And a therapist suggested that I write. So after I wrote his story down, I wanted something just fluffy and easy and fun. And I was just sleeping in bed one night, and this idea came into my head that there would be this girl who had lost everything and was very hopeless, and this kind of silly, funny guy who would give her everything. And as I lived my life, and right before I fall asleep, I think it up, and then doing dishes, I think about it, and shower, I think about it, and I made up these scenes, and I never thought it would really come to anything, but I was introduced to writing comments and met some incredible friends, and loved the craft, and I'm so grateful and lucky that there's a place for that book to go.
I'm actually kind of like an old person, which is great, which is fun. I've been a publisher since 1999, and I started with Covenant Communications, and through the years, my career just kind of progressed, and I did contemporary romance and then some historical fiction, and then what I did was just it felt like a natural time to kind of to try something new. And so I submitted my steampunk book to Shadow Mountain, and they were willing to be like, no, what is it exactly? And then they were like, maybe. And so that's kind of how that happened. We've been here ever since, and it was a great place to write that book.
I've also been writing for a while. I started publishing in the year 2000 under a variety of things. I was finishing up a culinary mystery series that I'd done with Edenbrooke with Shadow Mountain. And I was trying to write another cozy series, but I couldn't get it to sound different than the one I just finished. And I was kind of frustrated with it, a little worried because I was afraid I was going to lose my momentum with my publishing. I was on a pretty good track. And so I approached Proper Romance, which had done a book by Julianne and I think a book by Sarah. And I asked if they would be open to looking at some ideas for a romance. And they were open to that. And I thought I would write a couple of Proper Romance books while I got this other series going. And I've never worked on that series again. So that's kind of how I got into Proper Romance.
Like Josie and Nancy, I've been writing for my whole life. I wrote my first book when I was 15 years old, but I didn't get it published until 2000. Josie and I started together, and so she feels like my sister in writing, and I appreciate that about her a lot. But I've written in lots of different genres, and as my career progressed, I was approached one day by a beautiful lady, and she said, "Hey, I would like to just go to lunch with you and talk about the Proper Romance line. Do you know what the Proper Romance line is?" I'm like, "Actually, yes." I love that one. She's like, "I'd like you to talk to us." And so it was an amazing thing, and I'm so grateful for Heidi and for Josie, for all of you, and for all of you who made this like possible and amazing. So thanks, guys.
I started publishing with Shadow Mountain 15 years ago. I wrote a couple of young adult contemporary novels, and actually then I wrote another young adult contemporary novel and sent it in, and they said, "Oh, this would be really good if it wasn't this book." And so they were right. And so I did some pretty heavy revision, and aging people up 10 years does not come as easily as changing numbers, right? And so Check Me Out started out as a teenager book and ended up not being a teenage book anymore. And then I'm surprised it turned out that I like to write historical too. So that's how that.
We're gonna forward it to you. It all started with Twilight. Didn't everything start with Twilight? I had 3 little kids, my husband was in law school, and we had no money, and I was seriously depressed. Like seriously depressed, and medicine wasn't helping. And I just happened to pick up Twilight, which was not really a huge hit at the time, right when it first came out. And I just became enthralled with this idea that someone like me could write a book. Because, I'm like, I thought that was something that you have to, I don't know, get a graduate degree for or something. Anyways, so I started writing Edenbrooke, and I spent 3 years writing it, and then a year trying to sell it to agents. And the reason why I started writing that was because I grew up reading Georgette Hare, Queen Regency romance, and I wanted to find that again. And when I went to the library looking for something like that, all I could find was Regency romances where they're breaking all of the rules of society. And I just thought, surely there's someone like Georgette Hare out there who I can read. And when I couldn't find it, this is before Sarah was published, and when I couldn't find it, I said, well, I'll just write it. And it gave me so much joy to spend time with my characters, and it pulled me out of my depression, gave me something to work towards. Then I spent a year trying to sell it to agents, and they all, without exception, they all said, I would take this if it had sex in it. But because it doesn't, there's no publisher I can sell this to. It either has to be Christian or it needs to have sex. There's no one who's publishing just a straight, clean romance. And I just thought, that's wrong. And then I was I knew Heidi and Chris because I had a cute little dating book. No, I mean, not dating book. It's an advice book about how to get over a broken heart. It's called Don't Throw Rocks at His Window. And because I could have, I lived across the street from a guy who dumped me. But I'm a long storyteller. I don't know. Someone's going to pull my clear. I'll wrap this up. Anyways, I was ready to put Edenbrooke away and just give up on it and write something different because I spent a year just trying to sell it to someone. And I said, well, last-ditch effort, I'll send it to Heidi and see if she likes it. And I think she sat on it for a few months, and then when she did read it, she was like, oh, I love this. And then I said, I don't know if I want to publish that anymore. And she said, please. And I said, okay. And then I actually had a really smart agent who said, you've got to put something on this book to make it stand up in bookstores because it doesn't have sex and it's not Christian. So you've got to come up with a label for this. And then, so Heidi and her team went and did all this market research and they came up with a proper romance label. And I thought, that is really like the big step towards this change of publishing that I think a lot of us had goals and dreams about. I know Sarah did and I did, and we were kind of both at the same time trying to get this change to happen. And so it's been tremendously rewarding to see so many authors join in this effort to bring clean romance back to the market, and for all of you for reading it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Julianne. And just a really quick, short thing. So I live in Washington State, and our LDS bookstores are few and far between. But in my hometown of Yakima, we have a local bookstore. It's called Edenbrooke, and it's adorable. And I went in there last year with the title of the Miracle Creek Christmas saying, would you be interested in selling this at your bookstore? And I'd be happy to sign. And they were like, well, give us your info and sign this thing. We'll get it to the Our Lady who's over that. And I did, so and then I perused the bookstore, and I go to the romance, and they have a whole proper romance section. And I went right back to the front door desk, and I said, that book, you carried a proper romance line, and I said, yes, we love it. And I said, that's what I'm writing for. And they were like, oh, you don't have to go through our first Thank you. Okay, so what were the questions? Thank you. Okay, so actually, I was thinking about it this month, 10 years ago, my very first book came out, and Sarah and I had our book launch together. And what was that, Friends and Foes? I think so. And my book was of Grace and Chocolate. And so 10th anniversary to me too. I started writing similar to Megan. We went through tragedy and losing a baby girl in my family, and I had to write down that story. And had to write it, put it off, and finally, my youngest started kindergarten full time, and I had time on my hands to make a choice of what I wanted to do with my time, because I was at home. And at the same time, friends and acquaintances actually started a writing group. And my heart was just pounding, just wanting to join that group as I signed my name to the sign-up list. And so I got my personal history down, and after they read it, they said, and they were actively trying to get it published at the time, and they said, you need to send this, and you need to get this published. And I was like, this is too personal. And then they said, well, you need to be writing, because you need to be writing fiction. You need to be writing novels. And they just took me under their wing, and then urged me to publish what I wrote. And so that first book was accepted, and I was reading contemporary romance. My next few novels were contemporary, and then I wrote a mainstream contemporary instead of it being LDS-centric, and took it to Lisa and Heidi, and they happily invited me to join the Proper Romance line, and I was thrilled.
I suspect Julianne and I were probably both writing and submitting this type of story at the same time without ever having met, because I also was submitting this same type of sweet historical non-fiction romance. The first one I ever shot received a little over 100 rejections before it was finally picked up by the publisher. And for good measure, that publisher sent me a new rejection letter once a month for almost a year, even though I hadn't resubmitted. I was like, I get it, you don't like it. I accepted your first rejection. It's like I really wanted to, I wanted, we are. But like Julianne, we knew there was a market for this. I knew there were readers that were looking for this kind of book, so we just kept fighting and eating a lot of ice cream and getting our way through it. And I found a publisher for my emergency era books, and they had, I think at that point, 4 or 5 of them out. But I had resting on my heart for about 10 years a story I wanted to tell so badly. It was a story based in large part on my own ancestry, the story of Irish immigrants coming to America close to family and trying to build a new life for themselves. And I finally felt like I was a good enough writer to attempt this kind of story and to tell it. And I sent it to my agent and said, what do you think of this? And she loved it because she's brilliant. And she said, but I think we need to pitch this to Proper Romance. And I knew the moment she said it was a great fit. So that book went on to be Longing for Home, which was the second of the Proper Romance novels, and its sequel was the fourth. And the rest is history, as they say. It's just been a great, that was in 2012, so 10 years, yeah. So, I don't know.
Possible. And then a request for the authors. If you remember, will you say your name again when you answer questions? Because I guess some people can't see the name cards in the audience. So, all right. So this month, in addition to being our 10-year anniversary for Proper Romance, it's also Women's History Month. And so I'd love to hear from some of you about what it means to you to write about women and how you feel about sharing women's stories.
It's been really interesting to write historical. So there's kind of, some of you guys will know this. So there's different types of historical novels. And specifically, historical novel means that it's centered around an actual person or an actual event in history. Other novels like Edwardian, Victorian Regency is set in a specific time period. So it may or may not utilize actual events. So I've written both of those. I've written Regency and then I've written historicals. And first of all, with my historicals, 2 of them are written about men that we were familiar with, and then one about Harriet Beecher Stowe was written about women, and it was difficult to find a lot of women. It was difficult to find women because there just isn't a lot. We don't have a lot of women's stories historically. Men were the ones that wrote, men are the ones that are educated, men are the ones that are making those decisions. By no fault of their own necessarily, it's just the way that culture has developed over the ages. And so I think it's pretty exciting for us to be able to tell women's stories, whether it's a historical novel based on an actual person or a historical time period novel based on a certain time, and be able to show that we're not that different than the women were then. Our opportunities were different, but we were still whole people that had thoughts and interests and desires and tragedies and growth and development. We just don't have a lot of that recorded information. So in some ways we get to kind of go back in time and kind of put them back into the narratives that were being told at that time. And it's very fun, it's very affirming. I'm always surprised how much I find to just relate to with the characters that I write about, regardless of the time period. Because again, we're not that different. We're doing the same things. And it's really exciting, I think, to write about women who did find a place in their period of time because they helped pave the way for us to have the opportunities that we now can take for granted. So Harriet Beecher Stowe, she was writing in the 1830s, 1840s, couldn't own property, couldn't vote, all of these different things. She had a lot of limitations. Part of why she was able to be who she was because her husband stepped aside and allowed her to. He had his own aspirations, and he gave up his aspirations in order for her to accomplish the things that she was determined to do. And she was determined. She fought through the barriers that were placed in that time and was able to do some incredible change. And she wrote about racism and slavery at a time when that was a pretty bold concept. And she was doing the same thing. Her husband had made space for her and basically shared some of his power in order to let her have some. And then she ended up bringing an opportunity to give power to another group of people who didn't have any. And so it's interesting to see how we have an opportunity to give power, to give brilliance to people who may not have that yet. So it's been really fun. It's been a great journey. And writing on historicals was a suggestion of Shadow Mountain. They brought me the idea, and I was able to work with that and create something that I felt really proud of and I learned a lot from.
So, writing is Edwardian series. Oh, I'm Krista Jensen. Krista, good kid. Writing this new Edwardian series. I've written Regency novellas as part of anthologies, and so I had that background to build on, adding the turn of the century Edwardian era to Victorian and World War I, and the time of electricity and indoor plumbing and trains turning into automobiles and the beginnings of the airplane and the women's movement, women's suffrage really taking off from there. And it has been absolutely amazing to delve into this extremely moving, exciting world and setting these female characters in it at the age of 20 and looking at it through their eyes and what it means to them and these possibilities of who they could be and what they can add, even though it's still very much a women's world. And just being able to share stories to readers just to get us thinking about our place in this time of change and how we can make our own mark and appreciate who we are and maybe what we were meant to be at this time. It's really exciting and it's been a really great experience to start these stories in that way.
Just really fast, I just want to say that we would be remiss to not mention Jane Austen in this particular setting. Here's a woman who started a she started this subversive movement among women where she proved that their voices and their thoughts mattered. And all under the guise of entertainment. I mean, men had no idea that was even taking place in their nurses. And she proved that the pen fit just as well in a woman's hand as it did in a man's hand. And she gave us a lot of power. And I just love her for that.
Well, that's just a good, go ahead. You go ahead first, and we'll come back to you.
Okay, I'm Becca. The fact that we need to have a Women's History Month should remind us that there are people who forget that women are people. Just like the fact that we need to have Black History Month should remind us that there are people who forget Black people matter, right? Like, come on. But we're not going to let anyone forget that, right? People's stories matter. And we happen to be experts in womanhood. And we, as a group, may not be experts in themselves. People in this group are experts in pretty much everything else, right? But there has been, in the span of my long, healthy lifetime, times when I thought, wait, don't my stories matter? Don't the stories of normal people matter? And what I love about romance, and frankly what gets panned about romance is winning matters. Like, don't you want to read a story about somebody who wants something and then gets it? And so I think that Women's History Month as a thing is just kind of a little like, hello, half of us are female, and our stories matter too.
All right, so we did have a question from a couple of different people who wanted to know what each of your favorite Jane Austen novels are.
Persuasion, hands down.
Yeah, Persuasion.
Persuasion. Pride and Prejudice.
You can pick one. Pride and Prejudice now.
So I haven't read Jane Austen.
And 6-hour BBC Pride and Prejudice.
My favorite Jane Austen books are the ones that Charlotte Bronte wrote. But truthfully, and all hat off to Jane Austen, I think I like Northanger Abbey.
I was gonna say Persuasion, but right now I would say I love Mr. Knightley, right? Mine would be Pride and Prejudice for the whole cast of characters, and not just the love story. Mine is definitely Pride and Prejudice, but my favorite movie is Fahrenheit 451. I just want to say, when Josie said she hadn't read any Jane Austen, and you don't like Persuasion because we're still waiting for a really great adaptation. So I'm going to say Northanger Abbey because Jane Austen wrote it to make fun of Gothic novels, and I love laugh if you don't know from my minds and my books. So sometimes you just need to laugh and not be so serious.
In case generally my favorite is Pride and Prejudice. So several of you have written books about real people, and then most of you, many of you, write historical fiction. So we have a lot of questions from audience members wondering what the research process is like for that. So if any of you would like to tell us a little bit about your research process.
All I say is content never ending. No, that's literally all I'm saying.
I'm Nancy. I've written, when I was doing my Civil War series, this was back in the early 2000s, that required a really deep dive into a whole lot of history, and it was really great, it was good for me. But by the time I finished the fourth book, I was exhausted and sad. But one thing I did find is that the more I read from the time period, the more books everything I picked up, I would get another little tidbit of something that I would use. And I still find the same thing. I'm writing Victorians, even my steampunks are set in the Victorian time, and so I read widely I can research books about the era, and I read books written in the era, and it's kind of constant. It just is. As I keep writing it, it's something that I'm always doing. But usually I'm writing and sometimes writing with a book open at my side to make sure I'm getting the details right and stuff like that.
I'm Arlen. Research is one of my favorite parts of the writing process. And I go down a lot of rabbit holes because I like to go down rabbit holes, not because there's distractions or whatever. But one of my favorite things is to find journals, to find letters, to learn the thoughts of like the normal people who are going through all of these things. The people that I like to highlight in my books aren't necessarily like the key players in the historical events. I like to find the people who are being affected by those, the normal people like us who are being affected by the wars, being affected by the hard economic times and how they're getting through. And I just love finding those like personal letters and journal entries where they're writing their thoughts and giving us those little moments that we don't really get from history books.
All right. So we have just lots of questions about writing process in general. We have someone who was wondering, how do you find balance between your real life and your writing life and your research life? How do you keep all of those things, keep all those balls up in the air?
Balance does not exist, is it? The achievement of balance, the goal towards balance, is a worthy pursuit, but usually that means that you are in a continual state of unbalance. So something is too heavy, and sometimes it has to be. There's times when I was in the thick of writing and I had my kids at home, there were times when I flat out could not write and be a good mom at the same time. And then there were other times we ate hot dogs a lot. And so it was, for me, anyway, I tried to balance my time and I tried to balance my life, and I have not done it yet. But the attempt is worth doing. And then being very aware of what needs my time right now. And if it's not writing, then put the time that's necessary into the other thing that is most out of balance. And then you just go with it. I have grand fantasies of writing like Hemingway did, which I think it was 8 to noon every single day in a room with a typewriter and a cup of coffee. Maybe not coffee, maybe coffee. I love that image, and yet things can end that great for him, so I don't think finding that balance was the solution. So I'm just kind of going with what needs most of my energy right now, and where does writing fit within that, and I've had to accept that without judging myself poorly for it.
Balance is seasonal, like a lot of other things. I have a full-time job, and I don't write as much as I want to. And, okay, wait. I know there are at least 3 women in this room who I've taught. Look, you guys, being a high school teacher is awesome, but I don't want to do it forever. Because I want to write like anyway, right? I want to learn from 18, well, not like Hemingway. Actually, I don't want to write like Hemingway at all, like Hemingway's blog, right? But it's a seasonal thing, and I think each of us has experienced waves of that seasonal, and reading is a seasonal thing, right? And you guys know that there are minutes when you're like, all I want to do is read my book in my hand. And sometimes you present small people or old people to be quite honest. But those of you who can achieve like daily balance, you should be writing a book. For most, we'll have to read it. We'll even edit for you. Put in more kissing, that's what we'll say.
Okay, we had someone wondering what you've done over time to become a better writer. What you've done to become a better writer over time.
I read a lot, and I find that art begets art. So the more I read, the more I'm inspired to write good stories, and I love that. I love how much it gives me, and also I practice a lot. So I really fast. When I was in 4th grade, I decided I was going to play piano, and it was going to be amazing, and it was going to be awesome. And I took my instrument home every day. But when it came time for the Christmas program, my teacher pulled me aside that day at school, and she said, maybe you could just pretend to touch the instruments. And guys, if you say, oh, you think she's a bad teacher? No, I was a bad student. Because I took my instrument home every day, and I never opened the case. And it was a valuable lesson for me, because then when I had in 7th grade a teacher who told me I was a good writer, I thought, well, I'm not going to just be like that viola thing that shoulders don't work on me. I'm going to be good at this. And so that basically was a lot of practice.
I was going to also say what you said, just practice, practice, practice. It's very rare that a person's first novel will be their first published novel. I think my first one was my 4th, and even that, I think, was pretty early on. But I started writing 2010, so it's been about 12 years now. And I won't tell you how old I am, but that was rather late in life. So it's never too late to start. But I also went to conferences and had other people read my stuff. And I feel like I got better quicker than some because I listened to that feedback. Instead of feeling like, no, I'm going to keep this because I love it. Or, I took what they said and I applied it, and so my work was improved quickly based on those who are more advanced than me. So I appreciate that.
And she's finishing up her master's in writing.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some of your characters. If you could meet any of your characters or be friends with them, who would you want it to be? And say your name for this one.
Yeah.
I would love to spend a day, not necessarily reading, but just watching two of my characters interact. And feel like
kind of depends on this side of the river, all the better, right? That's a inside commentary. If you understand it, my name is Sarah Eden. You can find my books. Well, so how long to talk about this book that has the economics? Okay, so the book is based around four best girlfriends, and they call themselves the Windy League because they went and saw the first year of Peter Pan, the play, around that year in 1904 as 16-year-olds, and they made this book called the Windy League, and they are so talking about why I didn't write them. They come alive, and I am seriously saying these girls are so funny. I'm not saying I'm funny. And I would love to spend a day a week. I would love to live with them. And I'm excited for you to meet them.
Julianne. I want to flirt with Philip and be best friends with Henry.
Okay, I'm back.
I had to go quick look up my character's name because I couldn't remember. I'm Julie, and from Emma from Leicester also told me because I think this is adorable and I think her life is interesting.
Any of the male leads sadly have the level of single. The other one is Harry Batista. I would love to see that.
Nancy, I think I have this automaton in my second steampunk book that I can't remember. It's not Julianne, that's the third one. But my little automaton characters are more human than like robot. I think they're really, really funny, those cartoon characters. So either one of those or maybe Dr. Isla Cooper, she's good for business.
And Megan Walker. I definitely want to pick Butters and Peter.
And I'd probably go Sam and Dominic.
Well, since the main male character in my book I'm related to, that would be really awkward. But Ginger reminded me today that one of her favorite characters in A Song for the Stars at the beginning is Ikaika. And I thought, yes, to take Ikaika, I mean, he gives the girl a life to go fight.
I think I'd like to attend a house party where it's like a bathroom party, right? But I'd also really like to hear Katie McCauley play the violin for Monica. Yeah. Correct. Go ahead and take like 2 weeks off in that book. So like, I guess I could say I would want to read or meet Mr. Bradbury from my book, who probably not many people know about, but he is a gambler who's terrified of love for reasons I can't share. He's not yet. But my husband actually told me when he first read my book, he's like, Mr. Bradbury is good male form. Because he's the easiest person for me to write, and I actually had to take a bunch of stuff out. The child romance, like, or top romance, like, he's in here a little too much. It's like, it's because it was me. I was jumping in so much. So when you get to meet him, think about me.
All right, guys, just a couple questions left. So if we're here today, chances are we love all the tropes in romance novels. So do any of you have a favorite romance trope?
Enemies to lovers, AASs.
Mine is marriage of convenience.
Any other guys?
Also enemies to lovers. Friends to lovers.
All right, so we'll do our final question in just a moment here. Just a reminder, stay in the phone, we'll do some raffle tickets, and we'll get our offers where they're going. So our final question is, as we talked about, it's the 10th anniversary of Proper Romance. And so I'd love to know what you all think about where romance is headed in the next 10 years. What you would, or maybe what you'd like to see.
Let's keep the newbie, where are we going? No, I jumped on this train. Well, I hope it's going for humor. I mean, I love a good book that makes me cry. For me, my love, I think that one thing I've learned about writing is everybody's love language is different. So not every book is for every person because everybody loves differently. And through the heart-wrenching, astounding, painful, evil reviews, I mean, nice reviews, I had to learn that not everybody's love language is the same. And so some books aren't going to connect with some people. And so I'm just going to keep writing what my love language is, and I'm going to be okay with that. So hopefully it's just kind of going in the direction of finding a love language and go for it. I have no idea what it'll be like in the next 10 years, but what I'd really like to see is more men. I think the world would be a better place if men would read romances. And I would see male authors up here as well, and just sort of get a different perspective. More brown girl books.
I think I would like to see a little bit more books beyond just our regular Regency.
mix is awesome, but I think it is important to highlight the parts of history that maybe people don't get to see. I love to be entertained, which is why my books are usually coffee and funny and fun. So I like to see just a variation of silly things happening to regular people that can take me out of what life sometimes is hard, right? We want to be taken away. These women all do a beautiful job of that. I hope I can keep up with it, and I hope that we can invite fresh people up to come and join us and bring more perspectives and laughs and light into this world.
That's exactly kind of what I was thinking. Reading has always been such an escape for me, and one thing that I love about romance is that, especially within the genre of romance, you're guaranteed a happy ending. So no matter how bad it gets until you get there, once you get there, you're going to be left in a good place. And so I'd like to see that continue, and also healthy romantic relationships. I'd like to see healthy communication.
I think it's exciting to see where romance has been the last 10 years. We've seen a lot more subgenres, a lot more kind of diversity. And I'm excited to see where that goes in the next 10 years. And I love learning through story and all types of story. And if I can read story about characters that have lives different than me, then I get to learn about those lifestyles in a way that just resonates so well with me. So I'm excited to see more subgenres, more diverse cast of characters, more just acceptance for things maybe outside of what we see every day. So I'm excited to see those.
I love where we've come. I love the proper romance thing specifically because I love that it focuses on the relationship and not the mechanics and of being in a relationship, if that makes sense, the emotional part of it. And I think that that's the kind of book I like to read, and I think there's more out there to come. I hope that that's something, because I think that helps us learn how to interact with one another and help us to connect with one another in a deeper, more meaningful level. So that's where I'm moving with those.
I'm hoping for more representation. Love looks different on you than it looks on me, right? Love looks different in different cultures, and I want to see it all.
I think sadly romance still is not a respected genre for most people in the book world, in the publishing world. And I would just love to see that the quality of romance keeps improving and we gain some respect among other writers and publishers and readers who think that romance is trashy or poorly. I would love to have more stories that evoke real emotion and talk about real things that, you know, are important and not just fluff.
Triumph is a big word for me, and upcoming writers in the next decade, in the next 2 decades, young people, they're going through a lot, mentally, emotionally, and socially, and I frankly am excited to see what stories come from them, and I'm hoping that a lot of them will include Triumph.
I'm hopeful that within the next 10 years, everyone will come to agree with me that the kissing scenes are the worst. And I no longer have to write them. They are not my favorite. My husband offered to research them with me, but I just tried. More seriously though, many of you know this. I'm disabled, and over the next 10 years we'll see significant deterioration in what I can do, what I'm able to do physically. I've been gathering up so many amazing technologies that have been developed in the last few years. Well, my fingers don't cross anymore, but if they did, I'd cross them. But what I'd love to see over the next 10 years is more stories featuring characters who are disabled, but that those stories aren't disability stories, that we're treated like normal human beings who are loved and have value. And I do my best to write as many of those stories as I can. I don't always get accepted, but when I do, I'm excited to have them out in the world. So that's something I'd like to see more represented in romance, because that's my husband. Be in love with a disabled chick and rocks, you know?
this way to our lecturing friends there. They will find you and take you where you need to go.